Seconds, but guys, I don't know if you missed me, but for sure you probably have missed the war. And guess what? We're on the cusp of maybe going back to the war. You know, that memorandum of understanding that was signed between the US and Iran to have a ceasefire to end the war. Well, it is now about to go up in smoke. Of course, depending on who you listen to and whether you're listening to the Trump of 2 hours ago or the Trump of 1 hour ago. But the Iranians are saying that they want to burn it. So anyway, there is a lot to talk about because even though it's been quiet for all of 3 weeks over here in the Middle East, it's about to go back on full blast. We had an active night of attacks back and forth, and we're going to get into why they happened, what happened, how it's unfolding, and also at the same time, what is happening between Trump and the Turkish president Erdogan, because it is like a bromance going on, and it's what you looked at me funny. No, it's a bromance. Like I was like, what is going? Like they're whispering to each other and talking to each other. It's like I'll give you a few F-35s if you give me Syria. I don't know, things like that. Anyway, all right. So welcome to the channel. This is Nicole Johnson-Zion. I am reporting news from Jerusalem. At the moment when it happens, but also in general, anyway, you can check my shorts. They're going up more frequently. But anyway, let's get into it. So 3 weeks for this memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran, and what is happening. It was just Tuesday. So yesterday, Tuesday morning, a couple of civilian ships in the Strait of Hormuz were attacked by Iran. So, the U.S. At first, I didn't hear anything about that Iran actually did the attacks. But later on, Iran said, oh, yeah, well, they didn't follow orders to stop. They weren't abiding by the rules that we've set out in the Strait of Hormuz. Anyway, they attacked 3 tankers. There were no deaths, but apparently damage done. So the U.S. was like, okay, first of all, revoked Iran's oil license. And then after that said, we're going to attack and hit 80 targets in southern Iran. Now, in all of the attacks so far, I haven't heard of any deaths. I mean, yes, damage, but so far, nobody has been killed as far as we know. All right, so U.S. CENTCOM goes and says the strikes are in retaliation for violating the ceasefire, and then 80 attacks, 80 targets. Then what does Iran do? Because they got attacked by the U.S. They go and attack Kuwait and Bahrain. But I think, I don't know if they attacked their facilities or U.S. assets over there. So again, there was, no deaths reported there. But anyway, they're going at it again. Now, will it stop with that? And that is the question right now on everybody's mind. Like the whole region is again on alert. Israel is on alert for any attacks. Like you see, Iran goes after other countries, like the U.S. attacks, but Iran will attack another country. They went after Kuwait and Bahrain this time. Next time it could be the UAE, it could be Israel. So the region is a little bit up in arms, waiting to see what happens here. I guess we're kind of glad we didn't buy tickets yet to get out because God knows what's going to happen. But anyway, like the tickets would be probably canceled if that was the case. But anyway. So let's go see what Trump actually said. And I realized that I can do this. Somebody says President Trump says the truth. Okay, let's go watch what President Trump what he actually said, like in the last couple of hours, because this has only been like 36 hours that it's been unfolding. All right, let me find the first video that we are going to watch. Okay.
Ceasefire over. Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. We make a deal. And if I make a deal with him, we have a deal. And he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
These talks won't resume after we get through the funeral proceedings.
What?
Does this mean that talks with Iran will not resume?
I don't care. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. I do my whole life. That's all I do is deals. My whole life that's how I became president. I guess that's a deal too, right? But I made a lot of money. I had a lot of great success, tremendous success. Everything I did, I was successful. And I deal with these guys, and I say, this is from a different school. They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. You know, when people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead. They killed them. Nobody's going to take over. They have no guns, and the other side has machine guns. And they're killing them. The press doesn't report it. But they're bad people. They're bad people. And frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Now, I'll let our wonderful negotiators keep talking if they want, but I don't see it. I don't like these people. You know that? I like him. I like the leaders. I think all of these leaders.
Great. And they love him.
I think they didn't treat the United States fairly for many years, but that's okay. But they're sane, rational, good people. Most of them. I don't like a couple of them, to be honest with you. But there are a couple I don't like much. But I like Erdogan, I'll tell you.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. I like Erdogan. Yep, we're going to talk about the bromance. That is for sure. I mean, first of all, Turkey is hosting the NATO summit in Ankara.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, to be honest, we haven't been following the news because it's just like everybody needed like a decompression in their brain for a while. And then you get into the habit of not turning on the news. And then you see like when the news is trying to hype things up that doesn't need to be hyped up. And so then you're just like, oh, I'm tired of this. I just like, I need a mental break. So I'm really following the news like hardcore. But when there are U.S. attacks going on in the region, then yes, we need to start following the news because it might come our way. So we got to pay attention. All right, Walter, thank you for joining and thank you very much. Thank you for your prayers. I really appreciate it. So anyway, so you saw what Trump said. So he said what a lot of people have been saying for a while now that were opposed to the MOU, that said you should not make a deal with Iran. You should not have don't have a ceasefire with them. Like, don't expect that they're actually going to abide by your points. And so now he's saying, oh, they're scum. They're liars. They're evil. They shouldn't have a nuclear weapon. They killed their own people. And now he's giving a number, 54,000, which is higher than official numbers that were given before. So now he's up to, you know, it was in the 40s. Now it's 54,000. He's probably getting that intelligence from somewhere. He's probably getting those numbers from his own intelligence agencies. Anyway, you see that is the line that most people were expecting Trump to be giving. Instead, he made the deal. He also said some other things. Do you recall how he praised the Iranian regime? How he said that the new leaders are much more rational, they're much more reasonable, even though the new leaders, I mean, I don't know who they're negotiating with, but the leaders, the leader right now, the supreme leader, is the son of the slain former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, who was only just buried this week, by the way. They only just had the funeral. He was killed on February 28th in the opening hours of the war, and he was only just buried. So in another interview that I heard, Trump actually said, we let them have their funeral, we let them bury him, and this is how they repay us. And so anyway, this is what people say. Let me see, I've got here Ahsan Gil, Pastor Ahsan from Pakistan. Welcome. That's awesome. So anyway, this is where we're going with Trump, and or this is where all right, where are we going with Trump is the next question that I heard a reporter ask, and this was a couple of hours later. So now you heard what he said, and he was very critical of the regime. Now listen to this reporter's question. Let me go to this. Got to go back to the beginning. Why is it not playing? Oh, no volume.
President Tyler Pager with the New York Times. Last month, you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today, you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by sick people. What changed, and do you think
I got to know them. So I've said that about a lot. Now, when you say rational, I think they're much more rational than level 1, level 2. Level 1 is gone, level 2 is gone. This is level 3. I think.
Mr. President,
All right. So you heard that. Now, level 1 was irrational. Level 2 was medium rational. Level 3 is more rational, but he's gotten to know them, he said. And by the way, hi, Carol and John. Thank you for joining. So you see that he is saying that I got to know them. Of course, if you kind of read a lot of the news reports, maybe you would have known, or if you read like the opposition, the Iranian opposition analysts, you would have known. But he was, waited for this. Anyway, this is why, honestly, I just think it's all part of a game, and you just have to pay attention to, or pay attention to what's actually happening rather than the words that are spoken, because I think there are a lot of words that are thrown out. Some of it is, a strategy of deception or distraction. And so it's, I don't necessarily go by the words, because I would have asked the same question that the New York Times reporter asked, which is but you just said that they were rational people, you really like them. And, then he is now saying that I got to know them. And so that's why I am now saying that they're scum, etc. So Walter observes that Trump literally looks worn down. Well, that's interesting. I didn't really look. Honestly, I was just listening. But that's interesting. We're going to see some more videos of President Trump. So basically, here's what we're looking at. We don't really know how this plays out. Now, let me see if I have one more video, because this is, no, let me see. Nope, this is all, the rest of it that I have is, I don't have the latest. His latest comment that I heard on the news right as it was starting, and of course, seconds after I uploaded a video that said the opposite, that he said his words were something to the effect that I don't necessarily think this means we're going back into war. It just means that it's not the breakdown of the MOU. It doesn't mean we're going back to war, but we might attack them again. And so he did say, and he said, and take that as a warning. I really wish I could find this video. I totally heard it on the news, but I didn't get a chance to look for it. But where he said, he said, I've just warned you, we might attack you again tonight. But anyway, consider yourself warned. And then he went on, but he's treating it as like this, there'll be these rounds and then it'll be over. He also did say a couple of things like we can take them out, like we could take out their nuclear weapon without a deal and things like that. So again, follow what happens, which is why now it's time to stay alert and pay attention rather than what is said, because what is being said is going in several different directions. I just want to show this comment here where Dad thinks that President Trump is fighting a cold. Okay, so it's kind of like similar to what Walter is saying, that he looks worn out, run down, and anyway, but where he is not run down is when it comes to Syria. When he is not run down or worn out when it comes to Turkey. Syria is coming up. I think tomorrow. But where did it happen today? But in any case, he's got chemistry with Erdogan. That's what he said. He said, some relationships, you just can't explain it. You just have a chemistry. So I have a question. This chemistry between Trump and Erdogan that we'll see in action. I'm going to show you some pictures here. Let's look at some pictures because this shows possible chemistry here. Look at these guys. Look at the pictures. Look, they're whispering to each other. They're like, whispering in each other's ears. They've got the bro shake, I call it a bromance. I mean, it looks like a bromance. There were more videos and stuff out there that we saw over the last couple of days. And this has been big news here for several reasons. Now, of course, the ties between Israel and Turkey are just like totally in the trash, like non-existent. Like they are, they've become more of enemy states than anything else. I mean, this is a big deterioration. The worst since the incident where a Turkish based flotilla came to try to break into Gaza, to like through the waters, and the Israeli naval commandos boarded the ship, and they killed some of the participants. I mean, there was a fight, there was a struggle, and people were killed. So ever since then, again, relations with Turkey were totally destroyed, and then over the years. And by the way, I think that was it was in 2000, maybe between 14 and 18. I don't know. Mavi Marmara. Let me see. I'll let you know for sure. That was, it was in 2000. It was in 2010. Oh my gosh, that was a long time ago. 10 activists were killed. That was a long time ago. Wow. I thought maybe it was more recent, like 2014 or something. But so after that, there was a total deterioration of relations. They were called ambassadors, etc. Now things have then been on the rise. Like suddenly Erdogan was like interested in improving relations with Israel, and it kind of came out of the blue. But even to the extent that the heads of state, visited Turkey, so there was an exchange. The ambassadors were restored. And they picked up again, where they left off, both economically and militarily. Now, in the last couple of years, since October 7, 2023, Turkey has been one of Israel's leading critics. I mean, they say all out, this is a genocide, what Israel's doing in Gaza. And so totally have deterioration in relations, zero relations, enemy states. Turkey, it's interesting that Israel did repair relations with Turkey, even as it was known that Turkey hosted like the Hamas leadership in Istanbul and also had ties with Iran. But what Trump has said about Turkey recently is that Turkey didn't join the war, even though they're allies with Iran, but that's because I told them not to, or because they listened to me. So there is some sort of leverage that Trump has with Erdogan, and he calls him loyal. And I think loyalty is a big characteristic for Trump. It's like one of his key characteristics that he looks for in an ally, in a hire, for a job or for a political appointment. So very interesting. I am going to put up some comments. Walter says Trump needs to educate himself on how Turkey is an enemy of Israel. Well, I think Trump realizes that, and I think Israel is educating. I believe Israel would be educating Trump as much as possible on that. But some of Trump's statements have been like, well, I know that Israel doesn't like Turkey right now, but Netanyahu has said Netanyahu has said some difficult things regarding Turkey. So he is definitely playing both sides of the aisle there. And okay, according to interview with Bibi, that would be Netanyahu, and with the Western media, he is okay to give the I didn't even get to the F-35s. We're going to get to that, the F-35s to Turkey. I think both Bibi and Trump are playing games. Now, Ohan, it's interesting that you say that, because I was going to say that I believe factoring into this game, this current game here, is the Israeli recognition of the Armenian genocide. I've done shorts and I've done a lot of written posts, but I have not done a direct video since Israel has, quote unquote, recognized the Armenian genocide. Now, why do I put it in scare quotes? There's a few reasons, and I don't know if I'm going to get into all of them tonight. It's like a whole video. It's a whole thing. And I would actually even prefer to have somebody on to talk about it. I have a few people I've asked, and so we'll see what happens. But Israel has, by the way, that there's something going on in Bulgaria, and that might be Bulgaria. Okay, anyway, sorry. All right, so the recognition of the Armenian genocide, obviously, maybe not obviously, anyway, angered Turkey. And the fact that Israel did it now, after its entire existence of being lobbied to recognize the genocide, they only decided to do it about a week ago. They put it up for a vote in the cabinet, and it was unanimous. Now, it didn't go to the Knesset. I don't know if it's binding. I don't know. It doesn't carry with it any repercussions, or there's nothing that it, like, will the education system now be required to teach about it? Things like that. So I wonder if this is part of, Trump's way, like, look, let them recognize the genocide. I'll give you the F-35s, and says to Netanyahu, you do this. I'm going to give them the F-35s. We'll cover you with the genocide recognition. Not that it actually really matters or does anything at the moment. But there's probably something in it then for Israel. If they're, anyway, I think there's a big complicated web of deals going on. I don't think that Trump is necessarily abandoning Israel, but I don't think, but I do think that his chemistry with Erdogan is genuine, and that there are real deals going on. So now Ohan mentioned that the F-35s. Now, there's been talk for a while that Trump wants to sell F-35s to Turkey, and Turkey's been wanting these for a while. But there are a few obstacles in the way of such a sale. First and foremost is the U.S. law itself, that that it has to be, well, it has to be passed through Congress. It can't just be that it's decided. It has to actually be voted on. So that's one thing that could prevent it. But the other issue is that the other law was that Turkey several years ago, I think in 2018, 2019, bought missiles or an air defense system from Russia. So the fact that it is a military partner with Russia means that the US won't so readily give it its own technology. Like, for instance, here's the F-35s. Then Turkey can open it up and share it with Russia. So Russia would be getting stealth technology. So this is a big issue for a lot of Americans who are, very upset that a deal like this could go through, that it could actually threaten American security and intelligence. That is a security risk, but there's more. There's also that the U.S. is required by law at the moment to ensure that Israel maintains its qualitative military edge in the Middle East. So would the F-35s going to Turkey mean that Israel loses its edge? So this has to be part of it has to be one of the factors in whether or not the sale goes through. Now, aside from Israel, which obviously Israel's not going to want Turkey, which has been breathing threats against Israel, which the Sultan there is openly talking about a takeover of Jerusalem and going back to the Ottoman era when the Ottoman Empire stretched all the way down to Jerusalem. Aside from that, there are other countries that would be extremely concerned, such as Greece and Cyprus. Now, they're always embroiled in maritime border conflicts with Turkey in the Mediterranean Sea. There's oil fields there, but also Turkey is occupying a good portion of Cyprus. So those are major issues for other NATO allies to overcome if Turkey had F-35s. So anyway, those are some of the issues. Now, okay. Now, I'm going to tell you about an interview I did once with an Israeli analyst whose expertise is Turkey. He knows all things about Turkey. And I once called him on regard to another issue altogether. And I said, why is Trump so willing to bend over backwards for Erdogan, for his requests? And why does he seem to like him so much, even though he's taking the strong stance with Trump is taking the strong stance with Israel? So why would then he go with this person who's criticizing Israel and go along with what he wants? And the analyst tells me one word: Syria. Syria is the reason, because Erdogan can give the U.S. unprecedented access into Syria. The U.S. has never had any foothold, any fingerprint in Syria. It's been France, it's been Iran, it's been Russia, and it's Turkey. But that's it. So the U.S. has not been able to penetrate Syria. So he said that this is what they're after. He also explained, now at the time, in all of the many genocides that Syria carries out, like the Alawites, the Druze, and then they were going after the Kurds. But that died down quickly. And at the time, this is when I was interviewing the analyst, and he said, look what happened with the Kurds. They went after the Kurds. They got pushed them out of a certain land. And he said, what it was in this area? Oil wells. So anyway, so it was very interesting. So this is what we've got going on. Now let's go to Syria, because, let's finish off with Turkey, and then we're going to go to Syria. And I will also get to your question, Bea. Oh, hold on a second. All right.
He's been a very good ally. I mean, Marco could tell you. He's not a huge fan of Bibi, and he's not a huge fan of Israel, but he stayed out of that war. He could have gone into that war very easily, and he didn't. At my request, he stayed out of that war. He's been a very good ally. I mean, Marco could tell you he's not a huge fan of
Let's talk about
Bibi, and he's
Erdogan.
not a huge fan of Israel, but he stayed out of that war. He could have gone into that war very easily, and he didn't. At my request, he stayed out of that war. He's been a very good ally. I mean, Marco could tell you
So there you go. There is that. Now, oh my gosh, wait, I want to show you this other one. This is speaking of the chemistry that Trump said that we have a very special relationship. Let me put on the volume here, hit play.
I know why a relationship is special. Some people you get along with, and some people you don't. Sometimes you get along with the toughest people, like him, and sometimes you don't get along with the weakest, most pathetic people. You just don't get along. Maybe you don't respect them, but from the day we met, we got along. We had a pastor, so I remember his name was Pastor Brunson, and it was a very big thing, and he was very traumatic. He was sentenced to a long-term prison sentence, and I felt he was innocent, and I called, other people called, they got nowhere. I called the president, and he released him immediately. It was something that the evangelical community will never forget. And he was a good man, Pastor Brunson. So, just things like that, we just it's always worked out. And I think it's been from the very beginning, from the first moment. I said it before, it's a chemistry that works between us. There were those that I don't have a good chemistry with, I will tell you that. And we worked that out too.
All right, well, there you go. Just wrapping up the story there with Turkey and Erdogan. You heard it. We have a good chemistry. So, all right, let me see. I'm going to get to some questions here. Is it possible that Trump wants to tame the turkey tiger and make it be more docile by making deals? Just wondering. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know, but I know that, like, I've done a lot of stories, articles about Erdogan's aspirations, which stretch from modern day Turkey all the way to Jerusalem, like revival of the Ottoman Empire. So I don't know that he can necessarily make him more docile. And I don't know how giving a very ambitious leader very high powered, highly technological weapons in a very tense region, how that is going to have that effect. I think it might have the opposite effect, but on the other hand, maybe he's just maybe that deal won't go through, and maybe he's just growing him and having that chemistry, and he keeps him loyal. Wait, you added something else, Bea, to go well along with the guy who wants to revive the Ottoman Empire is a bit weird. But I do believe, that Trump probably thinks that whatever his empire that he is building is probably stronger and the most powerful in the world. So, perhaps, I don't know. Anyway, there's no telling. There's no telling. I just want to shout out to Jerry. How are you, Jerry? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. All right, and let's see. Ohan has a question. What do you think when Cyprus with Israel start to liberate northern Cyprus? It's legitimate right of Cyprus to take back, as Azerbaijan used the same tactics. Turkey can't fight because it's part of NATO. And according to, it doesn't all show, the international law, I'll read you the rest. Cyprus should be under one country. Okay, you know what? I don't know that specifically. I'll take your word for it. And I don't know that Israel and Cyprus are even, do you think they're in talks to actually liberate northern Cyprus? I don't even know, but that would be interesting. Now think of it this way, though. If Erdogan needs the F-35s to defend his part of Cyprus that he has now, or to take over more. I mean, I don't know. Good questions. All right, so I started talking about Syria. So, like, U.S. access into Syria. So let me just say one more here. There's a lot of talk about the Ezekiel war and how things presently occurring appear to go along with what's happening with Turkey. I will tell you that when it comes to eschatology, I am probably just your worst address for that, because I have no idea. I don't know. Is this Turkey playing out? I really don't know. But when I hear a good teaching or opinion on that, then I will research it, adopt it, and then I will let you know what I think. But Walter, if you think of anything specifically, feel free to write it. But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do the. I have no idea. No idea. All right, let's see what is going on with his other bro that he likes. Trump likes this guy. Remember, President Trump says he intends to remove Syria from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism. Asked if he would do so, Trump replied, "I think I will. Why wouldn't I? He's done a good job." Here, let's listen.
Why wouldn't I? He's done a great job. Maybe he would have brought that up in a little while. But that's a good question. Yeah. Any problems with that? I think we should. Yeah, I will.
Do you still want Syria to help with Hezbollah?
Rowdy.
Oh, too bad we don't hear the answer to
Mr.
that
President, are
question.
you going to remove Syria from the state sponsor of terrorism list?
I think I will, yeah. I think I will. Why wouldn't I? He's done a great job. Maybe he would have brought that up in a little while. But that's a good question. Yeah. Any problems with that? I think we should. Yeah, I will.
Do you remember? Did you guys hear this? That Trump suggested that Syria can go take care of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Like that was a couple weeks ago, like as the war was coming to a close, or the ceasefire was being brokered, because people were saying like Israel could do it. Israel can demilitarize and disarm Hezbollah. So that, there were voices saying, yeah, that'd be great, or others saying like, no, Israel should withdraw completely. But people are saying no, like Israel's there. Like Israel and the Lebanese people both want Hezbollah to have no weapons. Like they have a mutual interest in that. So let Israel continue to do it, in the guise of this like ceasefire war, whatever that's still going on. The ceasefire war. There was the war within the ceasefire. And so that was carrying on. And at some point, Trump just said, oh no, Syria can go disarm them. Now, the current government of Syria is actually like mortal enemies of Hezbollah. And when they took power, which was in November of 2024, they just like they're the rebels. They were formerly the Syrian rebels. They just came like marauding down to Damascus somehow, like almost unchecked, and took over the government, and Bashar al-Assad fled. So crazy, right? How it just happened like that. But since then, the rebels are now the army, and they have gone through and systematically gone after like different ethnic or minority groups around the country. And there's been some international intervention. Israel intervened a little bit in like when they were going after the Druze, because that was on Israel's northern border. Like, and Israel actually has its military in Syria. So anyway, so all very interesting dynamics. But when they took over, one of the groups that fled Syria was Hezbollah. There was a big rush to the Lebanese border, and they knew that they were going to be annihilated by these people, because now these people had the power. It used to be that Hezbollah had the power in Syria because Syria used to be an Iranian ally. And so had Iranian militias, including Hezbollah, on their soil. So after the switch took place, Hezbollah had to get out. Now, one of the things that the new, like the fact that the new government is power, one of the things that has done in the region is it has cut off Iran, like physically, geographically, from Lebanon, from Hezbollah in Lebanon. So there are no more, I mean, active. There might be some Iranian militias, but they're not actively shooting at Israel from Syria anymore. And Hezbollah had to flee. There's no pipeline of weapons, of funds, and things like that. So it did cut off the Iranian arm to Hezbollah. So that just gives you a little bit of context for when President Trump says that Syria, or that the current Syrian army, that Giuliani should be tasked with going after Hezbollah in Lebanon and disarming them. That would probably escalate tensions in the region. And just based on the track record of Ahmed al-Shara, or Giuliani's army, there would probably be a slaughter that would ensue. So anyway, very interesting. Okay, so that is Syria. We have talked about Lebanon. No, we didn't talk about Lebanon. But Carol says, if Syria goes into Lebanon, will they ever leave? Well, I mean, that is a great question. I mean, it's not just like, if you look at the geography, which, let me get a map and see if we can check it out. Let's check out Syria so that we can see, and we can talk about about the locations, why this is also important. But here, let me share screen. All right, so you see Lebanon. Here, Syria, and where is Iran? You've got, well, Iran is separated by Iraq, but still, like, Iran controls a lot of Iraq here. So anyway, now you can see all of, this is funny. Let's go down to southern Lebanon. So where Hezbollah is primarily based is southern Lebanon, like all these towns down here. Like Mount Hermon is already like getting on the Syrian border, you can see, but like all of these locations, like here, this is Lebanon. Nabatea, I think, is a city where they were had a lot of Hezbollah. Bin Jbel, Hezbollah, different cities, and this countryside. So the question would be whether Israel, or whether Hezbollah, or whether Syria would be geographically limited on purpose to the southern Lebanon region, or whether then they would take advantage. Now, here's the other thing. Lebanon actually has an army. Now, the thing is, it's kind of a known thing that the Lebanese army is not as powerful or as well funded as Hezbollah, which is why it would be almost an impossible task for them to disarm this group. So would the Syrians be able to do that? Would the Syrian army be able to do that? That is one question. Like, I don't even know if it's technically possible if they could do that. That's one thing. And then the other thing is would the would the Lebanese army then have jurisdiction and be like, all right, get out now, or would they just try to take over? And I don't know. That is a really good question, because many occupying armies don't leave. Okay, I saw a question. These comments, jump around. And so I don't know if I missed any, and I'm sorry if I did. But I'm trying to keep up, and I see like things jumping. Okay. Anyway, Walter, I saw you wrote something and I found it. Everything occurring in the Middle East is very interesting. I never thought I would see all that and is happening in the Middle East and the world today. I have to say, I think that what is playing out now is more complex and interesting and fascinating than it was even 5 years ago. So things are definitely escalating, like at least in terms of the interest. I mean, like there's just, you know what? There's so much news. There's such an escalation of news. It never seems to stop. So yeah, in that sense, it is very interesting. All right, so we've got that now. Briefly, I want to just touch on the fact that there are negotiations still going on between Lebanon and Israel. And I've mentioned before that these are unprecedented, that for the fact that they're actually talking at like it's a certain level of the government, they're meeting together. The president of Lebanon has been invited to Washington, and he's supposed to go there. He's supposed to meet President Trump. And so that is going to be a very interesting meetup. Next week, they are going to continue the negotiations between Israel and Lebanon in Rome. They're going to meet in Rome this time instead of in Washington. Now, the president of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, he has constantly speaking to the country, to his country, explaining why he is involved in these negotiations, which many Lebanese people say that this is like betraying our own country, that we are, how do you speak with Israel, or even as they're at war with us, they're attacking our country. How could you go into negotiations with Israel? Now, what he said, I'm going to read a quote. I chose the path of negotiation because I cannot stand by and watch my homeland be led into the abyss for the interests of another country. The negotiation process enjoys the support of most Lebanese, including members of the Shiite community who have paid the heaviest price in the wars. The Shiites, the Hezbollah's Shiite, which is why he mentions that, because if there are any big supporters of Hezbollah in Lebanon, most likely they're Shiites, and Iran Shiites. So, it makes sense. Continuing what Aoun said, I had to take a step that could stop the destruction and devastation carried out by Israel and ultimately bring an end to the occupation. So he's saying that I must negotiate against with Israel in order to break the Iranian interests in our country. Like he does not want Lebanon to be led into the abyss of the interests of another country. He's talking about Iran. And then he brings it back to Israel, and he's saying also that these negotiations are going to result in Israel withdrawing from southern Lebanon, which they still are there right now. And so anyway, he says, I expect that my visit to Washington and my meeting with the president of the United States will yield positive results for Lebanon. Now, the other person who's been invited to the White House yet again is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Don't know if there's any planned overlap for these two. If these two meet together, that will trigger probably an agreement, but also some kind of crazy reaction, because the fact that if they meet, the highest levels of state meet, that means it will set the tone for diplomacy for the two nations. Now, already there is a tone that's being set, but it's still low key. It's still on the back burner. But that would definitely raise the stakes big time. Okay, so Bea says, do you know if the plan with Marines helping out in Lebanon is still on? I don't know about that. You need to send me a link or send me something. I didn't even hear about this. Are you talking about, is it the U.S. Marines? I didn't know about this, but very interesting. Okay, and Walter says so much has changed quickly in the world. Yeah, I feel like it's just everything's accelerating, like technology, news, events, it just is accelerating. So, there is one more thing that I wanted to tell you here. And so we've got Lebanon, we've got Syria, we've got the whole Middle East we've covered. The question really here is, okay, Bea says, I'm sorry, let me go back to the question. Bea says, yes, U.S. Marines. Okay, I'll have to look that up because I don't know much about it. But that was very interesting. I wonder if the U.S. I'm sure the US has some kind of thing going on in Lebanon, because if they're having and hosting these negotiations, there's got to be a deal. Now, all of this is happening. Wait, there's one more question. That says Ray told him that Hezbollah is paying members of the Lebanese army. Yes, I have also heard this, that they are paying off, and it's like basically like mercenaries, but or spies, or that are double agents working for them, like they're in the Lebanese army, but they're getting paid, and Hezbollah pays much better than the army itself. So it is this could be a problem. Now, I just did an article recently, which if I find it really fast, I can post it and let you know. Let me see if I can find it fast. Yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna open it. So though you know there's there are a lot of voices that are speaking up now, like against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And I don't know if it's a majority, but I will read to you some of this article. And I just have some questions here. How much of the U.S. military is still in the Middle East? I don't know. That would be a very interesting question. And is there U.S. military in Israel at all? I mean, I think there are soldiers based here. I mean, there is some kind of military presence here, U.S. military presence here.
Planes.
What?
The planes at the airport.
And not to mention the planes. The Israeli airport is overrun with U.S. refueling planes. We actually, back in the beginning of June, when we were returning on a flight, the flight was delayed for a couple of hours because they had to wait for planes to clear out of the very limited runways, or the hangar, like what is it where you park, like the docking stations. There are very few because there's so many US planes there. So anyway, so that is that means there's military personnel, but I think it's different than like they don't have a base here or something like that. And it'd be good to know how much of the U.S. military is still stationed in the Middle East. But I want to share this article with you guys that I wrote. Voices of opposition to and outright disdain for Hezbollah in Lebanon have been amplified more than ever, with many politicians and activists publicly supporting the agreement with Israel as a last-ditch effort to save the country. Now, I'm going to read to you some of the statements. Like, here is Samir Gajia, member of the Christian Lebanese Forces. He thanked J.D. Vance on behalf of Christians. He said these past 4 decades have been among the most difficult stages experienced by the Lebanese in general and Christians in particular. The establishment of Hezbollah weakened the state and plunged it into wars linked to Iranian agendas. After the agreement was signed with Israel, Gajia called it the greatest opportunity that has come to Lebanon to emerge from the tragic circumstances it has endured over the past 50 years. Here's another one. Charles Jabbour, communications chief of the Lebanese forces, has been calling for Hezbollah's surrender for years. And he says any security agreement preventing the use of Lebanese territory for regional attacks effectively nullifies the justification for keeping weapons outside state control. Now, he's talking about that Lebanon voted to disarm all non-state actors. So here's another one. The Christian Party Kataib published a statement that negotiations with Israel are the only viable path toward a ceasefire and an end to hostilities, the withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the return of displaced residents to their villages. Somebody else came right out, Nadim Gamayel, and said, who gave Iran the right to speak on behalf of Lebanon in the first place? Lebanon's unity is not guaranteed by Tehran. The safety of its lands is not decided in Switzerland, and its sovereignty is not a bargaining chip between two powers. So anyway, I am gonna, that's not what I meant to do. I'm gonna post this in the chat. I think that the chat only goes to YouTube for some reason, so I will probably remember to post this later also on Facebook. So anyway, that is about it. You've got Israel now on high alert, and also just to throw this out there, the Secretary of War, I believe you call him now, Pete Hegseth, was supposed to arrive in Israel today and canceled his trip. I think I just buried the lead. Like, that probably should have been the first thing I said, right? Like an hour ago, I should have started with this. He canceled his trip. So is that because he was also having a bromance with Erdogan? Or is it because there is going to be some U.S. attack tonight and he needs to be situated in a better place by which to carry out or facilitate this attack? So I don't know. I mean, very interesting. I find it interesting. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to thank you all for joining. I want to say anybody who is going to be in Jerusalem in the next few weeks, we've got some events coming up. So please check Facebook, check Instagram. You'll see like some of the events, and also check out Tony's shop online, because things are picking up. You can see like people are a little bit coming back to the Holy Land, traveling a little bit. Tourism is back a little bit, but it's ZionGateGifts.shop, right?
Actually, yes. But
what?
I'm still working on it. So people can visit the site.
All right.
Things, but I'm not completely done with it.
ZionGate.shop. I just checked it out.
Yes. So people can see some of the products I have. I've got a lot of new stuff that came in. I need to update my site. I'm still working on it. I still have a lot to figure out. People can see, people can't buy off the site yet. Not yet, but that's coming soon.
Gosh. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, guys, it's been great. It's been great chatting. And Walter, looking forward to meeting you in person. And Jerry's coming soon too.
Tell Walter I sent him a message.
Walter, Tony sent you a message. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a good day or good night wherever you are. And ciao for now. Check back for news as it occurs.